Joining me now is our friend, Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton. He serves on the House Armed Services Committee and is a former Marine Corps officer in Iraq. Congressman, welcome to you. So, as you're well aware, Iran has for decades used hostage-taking as a tactic against its adversaries. What are the concerns Iran could use the missing airman to gain leverage over the U.S., and how far will the Trump administration go to rescue him?
Well, it's not only concerning that they have a history of doing this, Alex. It's concerning that we have a Secretary of Defense who likes to mock the law of war, a secretary that I know active duty Marines call the Secretary of War Crimes because Ranger Pete just likes to perpetrate war crimes. And so now we're relying on Iran to follow the laws of war. We're relying on Iran to not commit war crimes against this downed pilot if he or she is found by the Iranian people or the Iranian regime. And that's a dangerous place to be in. And of course, all of this is happening under the backdrop of a president of the United States who once mocked servicemen who get captured, who said of John McCain, I don't like veterans who got captured. That's the only reason he's a war hero. I like the ones that don't get captured. I wonder how the family of that pilot is feeling right now, knowing that that's the attitude of our commander-in-chief.
Give me a sense of how dangerous rescue missions like this are. We keep hearing it over and over again, but put it in perspective. I mean, you were there in Iraq.
Well, it's incredibly dangerous, and I actually had the honor to command a trap platoon that's specifically trained to rescue downed pilots in situations like this. And it is incredibly dangerous. I mean, we flew in once to a crash site right after an American plane had been shot down. So we didn't know if we might get shot down by the same enemy that had shot down this plane. That's the risk that all of these servicemen and women face going into this conflict zone. They have to fly very low. They have to go through search patterns. They have to spend time over an area, and everyone knows where they're headed. Right? The Iranians know that they're coming to where the plane was shot down. So it's an incredibly dangerous mission. And let's not forget that we may disagree with this war wholeheartedly, but you've got to admire the Americans who are willing to go after this pilot and try to recover the airman, because it is incredibly dangerous. And the danger here, too, is that we get more drawn in, that another plane gets shot down, that we have more downed servicemen and women in Iran. And that's one of my broader concerns with this conflict, that the more the president gets himself stuck in this, the more he escalates, the more he threatens even to escalate, the harder it's going to be for him to get out.
I tell you, we pray this airman or airwoman who is probably running for their life literally right now is picked up soon by the U.S. and brought home safely. Let's talk about the first major address that Trump offered since launching the war, in which he said the mission will be accomplished in a couple of weeks. But he repeated the same shifting justifications he's been giving for over a month. He gave no details about the state of negotiations with Iran. And now today, he warned Iran has 48 hours to reopen the Strait of Hormuz or face devastating strikes. Does, sir, the administration have any coherent military objective? Does escalating this conflict make it impossible to have a clear endgame? Or should an endgame have been set in stone before starting this war and stick to it?
That would have been a good idea. It would have been a good idea to pay attention to the military advisors who told them that Iran would likely close the strait. It might have been a good idea to pay attention to the military advisors, like our understanding is Chairman Kaine, who said that if we use up all our munitions in a war that bogs us down in the Middle East, we're in a worse position to deter conflict elsewhere in the globe, including a potential World War III over Taiwan in the Pacific, which should be our #1 priority, deterring and preventing that conflict that could be incredibly dangerous and cost a lot more American lives. So at a strategic level, this is just a dumb move to start this war. At a tactical level, it's very hard to see exactly what ground troops would do to reopen the strait. The president talks about taking Kharg Island, but a little fact here. Kharg Island is not in the Strait of Hormuz. Just taking Kharg Island does not open the strait. He could put thousands and thousands of American troops along the shores of the strait, but what are they going to do? They're going to have to stay there indefinitely, or Iran will just close the strait again as soon as they leave. So really, the only options here are either you take over the entire country, a country twice the size of Iraq, and defeat the regime and put a new regime in place, or you get to a negotiated agreement. Those are the only two plausible end games at this point. And the problem is that the further we go, the less leverage the president has. I mean, they've closed the strait now. He's the one trying to sue for peace. He's the one begging China, of all, our biggest adversary in the world, for help reopening the strait. And of course, if they have an American hostage, their leverage goes up again. So the longer this goes on, the more leverage Iran gets, not President Trump. And the less trust they have as well, the less willing they are going to be to come to the negotiating table, which, again, unless you want to actually occupy this country, is probably the only end game that we have. It would be nice for the president to wake up and figure that out.
So let me build on that, because Trump said he achieved regime change in Iran, but denied that was his goal. And he's given zero details around negotiations with Tehran. So what do you make of the administration's miscalculation that the regime would easily collapse? I mean, with Trump's indicating that he wants to end this war, but Iran not stopping the attacks, how much leverage does this give Tehran?
A lot. And let's remember that Trump denied regime change was his goal after saying in his very initial speech announcing the war that he wanted regime change. Now, the truth of the matter is he kind of did get regime change, because the 86-year-old Ayatollah in failing health is gone, and he's been replaced by his son, who's more hardline, who we have indications is more willing to pursue a nuclear weapon, whose immediate family was killed in the assault, which, if he wasn't hardline before, will definitely make him hardline now. That all makes eventual regime change to a more pro-American regime even less likely. Once again, Trump losing leverage, Tehran gaining leverage. This does not bode well for getting us out of this at the end of the day. And unless the president has a plan, he keeps saying he's winning. How are you winning, Mr. President, when you've got a more hardline regime? When Iran is still firing ballistic missiles at all our allies and actually projecting power more violently and effectively than they ever were before you started this war? How are you winning when oil has doubled? How are you winning when they've closed the Strait of Hormuz that was open before you started this conflict? How are you winning when you have to beg our biggest adversary in the world, China, for help reopening the strait? That does not sound like winning to me at all.
Yeah. There are more than 50,000 U.S. military personnel currently in the Middle East or on their way there. That includes the 2,500 Marines, 2,000 paratroopers sent last week, whose mission hasn't been disclosed. But how do you compare what these soldiers are going through to when you were deployed to Iraq during the George W. Bush administration?
You know, when a lot of us were on the way to Iraq, we had questions about the war. And I mean, I remember taking bets as lieutenants in Kuwait about whether we would actually invade. I lost that bet, Alex, because I said, no way, Bush is not actually going to do this. But at the end of the day, Congress had debated and voted on the war. It was a bad vote. You know, the guy I'm running against for Senate voted to send us to Iraq. I think that was a mistake. But at least Congress was asked to do its job. American military planners had very clear plans. We knew exactly what our plan was, what our strategy was. We even knew it wasn't a great plan, but we kind of knew what the end game was. None of the troops in the Middle East have that right now. I mean, we sitting on the House Armed Services Committee have asked in classified setting, what are your plans here? They clearly have no plans. And the worst part is that all of these troops know that the president, their commander-in-chief, just lies to them every single day. Like when he got on national TV and said, we've eliminated all of Iran's anti-aircraft capability just a day before they shot down 2 American jets.
Sobering. Let's leave it there, though. Congressman Seth Moulton, always good to see you. Thank you much.